We want to find the simplified version of the square root of 12. The way you do that is to list your perfect squares other than 1, such as 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and so on. And look at 12. Divide 12 by 2. Half of 12 is 6. Between what two numbers does 6 show up in this list over here? 4 and 9. So everything below that line is not even of any use. There's no possible way it could go into 12. The only thing we have left is a 4. Does 4 go into 12 evenly? So you could write the square root of 4, and then 4 times what is 12? That would be a 3. So square root of 4, square root of 3 is square root of 12. And the reason why we pick a perfect square is so that we can simplify it. The square root of 4 is 2. So this is your final answer. This is the simplified version of this. Let's find the simplified version of the square root of 27. Your perfect squares are 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on. Half of 27 is 13 and a half. Between what two numbers is 13 and a half in that list? 9 and 16, so we can't use anything below that. There's no possible way it could divide into 27 evenly. But start with the highest one that's above that. Will 9 go into 27 evenly? Yes, so we'll have square root of 9 times the square root of what? 3. And the square root of 9 is 3. So we will have 3 square root of 3 for our simplified version of this. Let's find the simplified version of the square root of 48. Our perfect squares are 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, and so on. Half of 48 is 24. Between what two numbers is 24 in this list? 16 and 25, so forget about the rest of them. And start with the 16. Will 16 divide evenly into 48? Yes, it will. 16 times what is 48? 3. The square root of 16 is 4. So 4 square root of 3 is the simplified version of the square root of 48. We want to simplify 5 square root of 24. Our perfect squares are 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on. Half of 24 is 12. Where does 12 show up in that list? Between 9 and 16, so forget about everything below that. Does 9 go into 24 evenly? No. What about 4? Yeah, so we keep the 5 that's already there and write square root of 4 times the square root of what? 6. Keep the 5, and the square root of 4 is 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. 10 square root of 6 is the simplified version of 5 square root of 24. We want to find the simplified version of 4 square root of 96. Our perfect squares are 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, and so on. What's half of 96? 48. And where does 48 show up in the list?
36 and 49.
Yeah, 36 and 49. So everything below that you don't have to worry about. Will 36 divide into 96 evenly? No. What about 25? No. What about 16? All right, so 4 square root of 16 times the square root of what? 6. The square root of 16 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So 16 square root of 6 is the simplified version of 4 square root of 96. Let's find the simplified version of 3 square root of 45. I have 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and so on for my perfect squares. Half of 45 is 22 and a half. Where does that show up in the list? Yeah, between 16 and 25, so forget about this. Will 16 go into 45? Nope. What about 9? Yes. So 3 square root of 9 times square root of 5. And the square root of 9 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So 9 square root of 5 is the simplified version of 3 square root of 45. We want to simplify 3 square root of 28 over 4. So our perfect squares are 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on. Half of 28 is 14. 14 shows up between 9 and 16. So forget about everything below that. Will 9 go into 28? No. What about 4? Yeah, so I'll have 3 square root of 4 times square root of 7, and then over 4. The square root of 4 is 2. And 3 times 2 is 6. You're not finished yet, because you can simplify here. 6 over 4. You can simplify that fraction. What number goes into 6 and 4? 2. So if I divide by 2 here and by 2 there, I'll come up with 3 square root of 7 over 2. The highest perfect square that comes out of 63 is going to be 9. And I would multiply 9 by 7 to get 63. The square root of 9 is 3. And then when I multiply together, I get 12 times 3 is 36. And I have 36 over 9 that can be reduced to 4. So 4 square root of 7 is my final answer. The highest perfect square that comes out of 75 is 25. 25 times 3 is 75. The square root of 25 is 5. And then when you multiply together, you get 15 square root of 3 over 15. These cancel out, so the answer is just square root of 3. The highest perfect square that comes out of 98 is 49. 49 times 2 is 98. The square root of 49 is going to be 7. Whoops, I've made a square root sign by accident. We'll just make it an ugly 7. There we go. And then square root of 2. On the bottom you have a 28. So 7 times 7 is 49. And 49 over 28 can reduce. You can divide both by 7. And when you do that, you're left with 7 square root of 2 over 4.